When a woman disrespects you, she's making a bet. She assumes you'll still be there tomorrow, still picking up her calls, still orbiting her world as if nothing happened. In her mind, you are too attached, too invested, and too afraid to lose her. That's why she feels safe crossing the line. But here's the truth. A man who understands his worth doesn't fight for a chair at a table where his presence is ignored. He doesn't beg for his seat. He flips the entire table. He doesn't warn her, doesn't ask permission, and doesn't hand her the closure she thinks she deserves. Instead of chasing apologies or second chances, he invests every ounce of his energy into becoming the man she can never touch again. And this isn't about playing games or trying to spark jealousy. This is about living the Stoic principle: you control your mind. You control your actions, and nothing else. Because the moment you realize you don't need to explain, negotiate, or justify your standards, you stop reacting to disrespect and start building a life where respect is the foundation. That's what this video is about. Today, I'll share with you 5 silent moves that make women regret ever disrespecting you. These aren't moves that require shouting, proving, or begging. They don't just shift the balance of power in your favor. They remove her from the equation entirely when you master them. You're no longer a man trying to win back respect from one woman. You're a man who commands respect everywhere, from everyone. And here's the beauty. You don't need her validation for it to work. Because the transformation is for you, the peace is for you, and the discipline is for you. So pay close attention. And before we dive in, let me ask, have you ever stayed too long with someone who didn't respect you? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit like if this resonates. And subscribe to the Stoic Spirit for more lessons that keep you unshakable. Number 1. Cut off access without warning. When a woman disrespects you, tests your boundaries, or crosses a line no man with self-respect should ever allow, the worst mistake you can make is to start explaining. You don't sit her down for a lecture about respect. You don't list out her wrongs like a lawyer in court. And you don't waste your breath trying to convince her why she should value you again. Because, here's the truth, the moment she disrespects you, she's already made a decision in her mind about your worth. And if you try to argue against that decision, all you really do is reinforce it. She now sees you as a man willing to fight for a place in her world, even after she has told you through her actions that she doesn't value you. So instead of debating, you act. You remove yourself from her orbit completely, not with a warning, not with a dramatic announcement, not with a "this is the last straw" speech. You cut off access without explanation, not as a childish tantrum, not as a manipulative game, but as a principle, as a recalibration of the privilege she once had to your presence, your attention, your time, your voice, and your energy. And here's why it works. Up until now, she has likely built her behavior on a single assumption: no matter what she says, no matter what she does, you'll still be there. You'll still answer the phone. You'll still reply to her messages. You'll still exist in the background, ready to pick her up if she falls. You've become her safety net, the net she didn't earn. But when you cut that net suddenly, without the courtesy of warning, she falls into a vacuum she didn't prepare for. And that emptiness, that sudden silence, forces her to replay the last days, the last weeks. Every conversation. Scanning them like a detective. She starts to wonder, when did he change? When did he stop being available? When did he disappear? That confusion is where regret begins. Not because you explained it, not because you yelled about it, but because you left no explanation at all. Now, here's where most men go wrong. They announce their departure like a performance. They give speeches about how they refuse to be disrespected. They storm out saying, "You'll regret this. I'm not coming back." And in doing so, they hand her a gift, the gift of knowing she still has your emotional energy. But the man who cuts off access silently gives nothing away. There's no dramatic scene, no raised voice, no angry messages. There is only absence. There is only silence. And there is the slow, heavy realization on her part that she has been cut off from something she thought would always be there. This move only works if you execute it fully. You don't half do it. You don't block her number, but still peek at her social media. You don't unfollow her, but keep watching her stories. You don't leave one secret channel of communication open just in case, because every breadcrumb you leave behind is a thread she can pull on to keep you in her orbit. And if she can still tug at your presence, she still owns a piece of you. So the cut has to be complete. That means deleting her number, muting or blocking her on every platform, refusing to acknowledge her in group settings, and most importantly, doing all of this without announcing it. You don't say, "I'm blocking you." You don't try to show her what you're doing. You simply vanish, because the man who truly cuts off access is not performing for her reaction. He is enforcing reality. And that reality is simple. Disrespect comes with a cost. The cost is losing him. And here's the beauty. You don't need to make her feel bad with words. You don't need to craft the perfect speech. The sudden absence of your attention carries a weight of its own. It's heavier than any lecture. It's colder than any insult. And it cannot be ignored. Now, let's talk about the hardest part. Because once you cut her off, there will be a part of you that wants to check. You'll want to see if she noticed, if she's reaching out, if she's regretting it yet. That urge is the test. And Stoic discipline demands you resist it, because the moment you send even the smallest signal, you water down the impact of your silence. So what do you do with that energy? You redirect it instantly into pursuits that build you. The gym, your business, your skills, your circle. Because if you cut her off but sit alone in your room thinking about her, you haven't cut her off at all. You've only freed her from your presence while still giving her free rent in your mind. This move is only complete when you cut her off both externally and internally. She loses not only your number, your attention, your responses, but also your mental space. And here's the transformation. The moment she loses you, you are already moving into a higher gear. By the time she fully realizes your absence, you've built so much momentum that she could never catch up, even if she tried. And that's the ultimate win. Because you didn't just make her regret it. You built a version of yourself that would never tolerate her disrespect in the first place. You became the man who doesn't need to announce his standards. He lives them. And when you reach that point, you never have to explain yourself again. Not to her. Not to anyone. Number 2. Level up quietly. When you walk away from a woman who has disrespected you, there's a dangerous trap waiting for you. Most men fall into it without realizing. They sit in their rooms, stewing in bitterness, replaying conversations in their minds as if going over the past will somehow change it. They waste their nights imagining how things could have been different, hoping their anger will produce closure. But that's exactly what she expects from you. She assumes you'll keep thinking about her. She assumes you'll talk about her to friends. Maybe even stalk her life from a distance, watching her posts, while your own life remains frozen in place. In her mind, your story has ended where she left you. But the man who flips the script knows something different. He understands that the most devastating form of closure isn't a speech. It isn't an explanation. It isn't even a final word. It's transformation. It's becoming so far ahead in life that when she hears your name again, she doesn't recognize the man you've become. And here's the secret. This transformation must be quiet. You don't announce every step. You don't post every workout online. You don't broadcast every move like a man desperate for attention, because the moment you try to prove yourself to her or to the world, you've already lost the essence of growth. Real progress doesn't need applause. Real progress speaks when you stay silent. That's why silence is your camouflage. It protects you. It allows you to grow without interference. It prevents her from knowing what you're building. And when months pass, and you step back into the world transformed, the distance between where you are and where she thought you'd be becomes a canyon, so wide, so undeniable, that it shocks her into rethinking every assumption she once made about you. But let's be clear, this upgrade can't be surface level. It has to be full spectrum. Your health, your finances, your mindset, your appearance, your presence in the world, because if you only improve one area, she can dismiss it as luck, as temporary, as a trick. But when everything changes, when the man who once reacted to her disrespect is now leaner, sharper, calmer, more respected, and in full control of his life, she cannot ignore it, even if her pride won't let her admit it out loud. Deep down, she knows she underestimated you. And here's the point you must never forget. This is not about making her crawl back. This is about becoming the man who never again attracts that kind of disrespect in the first place. Because the man who upgrades his entire life isn't chasing anyone. He's building himself into someone who lives on a different level. And that kind of growth requires a discipline most men will never touch. It requires replacing habits that kept you stagnant with habits that compound over time. It means waking up earlier than you want to. It means lifting heavier than you thought possible. It means studying topics you once avoided. It means rejecting distractions that used to control you. And when you start living this way, not as a temporary project, not as a month-long experiment, but as a permanent lifestyle, everything changes. Your actions reflect a standard she cannot match. Your results speak for themselves. And the regret she feels is no longer about simply losing you. It's about realizing she misjudged a man who was always destined to rise. And here's where it gets even more powerful. When you live like this, you don't need to block her to get her attention. You don't need to bring up her name in conversations with mutual friends. You don't even need to glance her way if you cross paths, because your transformation is the loudest statement you could ever make. But here's the catch: men who truly level up quietly don't do it secretly, hoping she'll see it one day. They're not playing the long game of revenge. They do it because they've realized that the best revenge is indifference. The best revenge is to live in a way where her opinion has no weight at all. And ironically, that's exactly what makes her notice, because people are always most curious about what they can't control. And when she sees that her disrespect didn't break you, when she sees it became the fuel that built a stronger, sharper, more powerful version of you, it rewrites the entire dynamic forever. In that moment, she realizes what you understood the day you walked away, that you never needed her validation to win, that you never needed her recognition to rise. All you ever needed was the discipline to disappear and come back as someone she would never believe you could become. And that is the essence of leveling up quietly. It's not loud. It's not flashy. It's steady, disciplined, and unshakable. It's a man building silently so that when he reappears, he is no longer competing for respect from one woman. He is commanding respect from the entire world. Number 3. Stop explaining yourself. There comes a moment in every man's journey when he realizes the silent truth. The more he explains himself, the more power he loses. At first, it feels harmless. You want to be clear. You want people to understand your choices. You want her to see your heart. But here's the reality. Every time you explain your actions, your decisions, or your standards to someone who's already proven they don't respect you, you're not clarifying, you're negotiating your worth. And once you enter that negotiation, you've already given up leverage. Because the moment you explain, you hand them the authority to approve or disapprove of your life. And that is the trap most men fall into. When a woman has disrespected you, your explanation becomes her playground. It gives her space to twist the story, to minimize her behavior, to make you question whether you're overreacting. She might even convince you to lower your standards so she can keep access to you without making any changes herself. This is exactly why men who know their value stop justifying their moves. Because a man who has direction doesn't need permission to walk his path. He doesn't need applause to take the next step. The reality is simple. When you walk away, when you stop calling, when you shift your energy elsewhere, she will often try to pull you back into a conversation. It usually begins with something like, "I just want to understand." But that phrase is rarely about understanding. It's about control. It's about pulling you back into her frame so your choices are once again dependent on her reactions. Most men crumble here. They believe if they just explain clearly enough, she will finally see the truth. But here's the lesson: she doesn't need to get it. She needs to feel it. And feelings are delivered through actions, not explanations. The danger of explaining yourself is that it keeps you emotionally tied to her approval. It puts her opinion above your direction. And the longer you live like that, the further you drift from your own authority. So what do you do instead? When she asks why you're distant, why you stopped calling, why you haven't replied, you don't send an essay about her disrespect. You don't defend your boundaries. You don't beg her to understand. You simply say, "I've been focused on my own path." And you leave it there. No long speeches. No justifications. No open door for her to argue. Because a man who knows his path also knows this: the wrong people don't need the map. And this doesn't only apply to women, it applies to every relationship in your life. When a friend questions your new routine, when a family member doubts your business idea, when a colleague asks why you're not hanging out after work, you resist the urge to justify. You let your results speak. You let your progress be your answer. Because here's the truth. If someone respects you, they won't demand a defense for your choices, and if they don't respect you, no defense will ever change their mind. In relationships, this principle is even more critical. Women are not drawn to men who explain themselves into the ground. They are drawn to men who move with certainty, men who trust their own judgment more than they care about external approval. Ironically, the less you explain, the more respect you command, even from the same people who once dismissed you, because now they see that you are not a man who can be bent by pressure or guilt. You are immovable, and for the woman who disrespected you, your silence speaks louder than any speech you could give. It shows you're not even angry. You've simply removed her from the conversation that is your life. She's no longer relevant. That kind of calm detachment carries more weight than all the words in the world. It tells her you don't need her to understand, approve, or validate you. You've moved beyond that stage. When you live this way consistently, you stop chasing understanding from the wrong people. You start building a life that doesn't require defense-only demonstration. And that's when the power comes rushing back. You realize how much strength you gave away in the past. Trying to explain, trying to prove, trying to make someone see your side. And you vow never to hand that power over again. Because the man who moves without explanation is already free. He's not seeking permission. He's not seeking applause. He's not begging anyone to see his worth. He simply knows his time is too valuable to waste on convincing those who never truly valued it in the first place. And when you embody that, your silence becomes your greatest weapon. Not silence born from weakness, but silence born from strength. The silence of a man who no longer negotiates his worth because he already knows it. Number 4. Redirect energy to a better circle. Walking away from a woman who disrespected you feels like a win. And in one sense, it is. You removed yourself from a toxic dynamic. You broke the cycle of begging for the bare minimum. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Walking away is not the finish line. It's only the starting point. Because what you do after walking away determines whether that decision becomes a turning point or just another repeated pattern. Too many men mistake leaving for transformation. They step out of a bad relationship. But instead of stepping into growth, they step into emptiness. No higher standards, no stronger influences, no challenging environment to sharpen them. And what happens then? Life always fills a vacuum. If you don't redirect your energy into something higher, that space will pull you right back into something lower. Another distraction, another mediocre circle, another woman who mirrors the same disrespect in a different face. This is why redirecting your energy to a better circle is not optional, it's essential. Because whether you want to admit it or not, your environment shapes you more than your willpower ever will. You can have discipline. You can have ambition. You can talk about respect and values all day. But if you surround yourself with people who normalize mediocrity, you will sink back into it. Think about it. If your circle lives for small talk, weekend distractions, and tolerating good enough, then no matter how much you want greatness, their gravity will drag you down. And that's the trap so many men fall into. They cut ties with disrespect, but they never cut ties with the culture that made them accept it in the first place. And that's why many end up crawling back, not because they truly miss her, but because they miss the familiarity. They miss the comfort zone. They never replace that empty space with something higher. so the mind defaults to what it knows. But the man who values himself understands cutting her off is step one. Step two is building a new world around yourself. A circle where disrespect doesn't even exist in the culture. A circle where accountability, ambition, and growth are the air you breathe. This doesn't mean finding a group of people to complain to. No. It means entering environments that force you to evolve. Rooms where your excuses sound ridiculous. Conversations where your small thinking is exposed. Circles where your wins are celebrated. But your comfort zone is constantly under attack. And when you step into those circles, everything shifts. Instead of wasting mental energy wondering if she's thinking about you, your energy is locked into building the next business move, crushing your next fitness goal, or mastering a skill that makes you sharper and more unshakable. Here's the powerful part. People can feel this shift. The woman you left behind will feel it too. She will see that you are no longer orbiting the same conversations, the same spaces, or the same broken cycles. She will see that you didn't just leave her, you left an entire reality she still lives in, and you stepped into one she cannot even enter. That is devastating to her, not because you told her she lost a valuable man, but because she sees you thriving in a world where she has no relevance, no influence, and no access. And this is the difference. Women don't regret losing a man just because he walked away. They regret losing a man who walked away and then built a life so powerful that he no longer even thinks about her. That regret is permanent. Because it's not tied to your words, it's tied to your reality. So here's the practical step. Audit your circle immediately. Cut dead weight without hesitation. Remove people who normalize mediocrity, who drain your energy, or who live only for temporary pleasures. Seek out environments that challenge you, even if they make you uncomfortable, because growth is never found in comfort. Invest in these new relationships the way you used to invest in chasing validation, because the energy you used to spend trying to prove your worth to a woman who disrespected you can now be multiplied when poured into people and spaces that sharpen you. And over time, something powerful happens. You stop even thinking about proving anything to her. You stop rehearsing what you should have said. You stop replaying the past, because the life you're building makes her opinion, her presence, and her memory completely irrelevant. That's when the regret for her is permanent, not because you reminded her of your value, but because she now sees it every time she sees you, surrounded by people who reflect it. A circle where she never belonged, and never will. This is the Stoic way forward. Redirect your energy. Stop pouring it into broken places. Build a circle that forces you higher. And watch how quickly her memory fades, not because you erased it, but because the man you've become has no space left for it. Number 5 show. Zero emotional recoil. When someone disrespects you, especially a woman who once treated you like you mattered, smiling at your presence, laughing at your humor, leaning into your energy, the instinct is to fire back. Your chest tightens, your jaw hardens, and your words sharpen with the weight of your anger. It feels natural to want her to see the damage she caused, to reveal the scar she left on your pride. Part of you believes that if she sees you upset, she'll finally understand, that if she notices the pain in your tone, she'll recognize the depth of her betrayal. But here's the brutal truth. When you show her that emotional spike, she doesn't respect you more. She feels powerful. Your reaction confirms to her that she still has a hold on you. And in her mind, if she can still pull on your emotions, she still owns a piece of you. That's the hook. That's the leash. That's the quiet victory she holds over you. This is why the most devastating response isn't an explosion. It's silence wrapped in composure. Not coldness. Not apathy. But a steady, unshakable calm that makes it impossible for her to read you. This isn't about acting like you don't care. It's about truly refusing to give someone the satisfaction of knowing they still control your inner state. It's about understanding what Marcus Aurelius meant when he said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. The ability to master this is rare because it demands separation between feeling and reaction. It forces you to disconnect the storm inside from the surface outside, to absorb disrespect not with fire, but with stillness, not because you are weak, but because you are untouchable, and when you operate at that level, you become the kind of man who cannot be provoked into lowering his standards just to prove a point. You rise above the drama, and that, ironically, is what drives people who thrive on chaos insane. They need your reaction like oxygen. They survive by pulling you into their storm, by baiting you into breaking character, so they can say, "See, you're no different than me." But when you don't break, when you don't raise your voice, don't throw back petty insults, don't even shift your expression, you deliver a message far louder than words. You send the signal, you have no control here. For the woman who thought she could disrespect you and still keep your attention, this is the breaking point. Because when she realizes she can't even get a rise out of you, regret begins to creep in. She recognizes she no longer holds influence over your mind. And that absence, your refusal to give her any emotional footprint to cling to, becomes haunting. But here's where the lesson transcends relationships. Once you learn to show zero emotional recoil in your personal life, you start applying it everywhere. In business negotiations, where competitors try to rattle you with pressure. In family disputes, where old wounds can be weaponized. In social dynamics, where manipulation often hides behind emotional games. You discover that the less you react, the more control you possess. People can't play chess with someone who refuses to move their pieces out of impulse. They can't bait a man who won't pick up the hook. So how do you cultivate this level of control? You begin by slowing everything down. You practice the pause. You breathe deeply when confronted. You train yourself to choose your response rather than fall into it. Instead of asking, "How do I feel right now?" you ask, "What outcome do I want right now?" That shift rewires your entire approach. Because suddenly, your energy isn't dictated by someone else's disrespect. It's guided by your standards, your mission, your vision. And as this becomes your default, your power compounds. People learn that trying to get under your skin is useless. They stop attempting to provoke you, because they realize there's nothing to gain. For the woman who once disrespected you, this realization cuts the deepest, because she sees that you didn't just walk away. You walked away without leaving her anything. No angry text, no bitter insult, no look of betrayal to replay in her mind. You exited without giving her the smallest emotional thread to pull on. And that kind of exit is unforgettable. It lingers in silence. It haunts her not with fury, but with emptiness. because there's nothing left for her to twist, nothing left for her to fight, nothing left for her to use. That's the essence of showing zero emotional recoil. It's not a trick. It's not about playing games. It's about becoming a man who is so rooted in his own self-control, so anchored in his own values, that no disrespect has the power to shake his foundation. And when you reach that level, you discover something liberating. People lose their grip on you. Chaos loses its hold, and you gain the one thing every Stoic sought: freedom. Only the undeniable truth remains. The man she thought she could bend has risen beyond her reach, never to be broken again. If you take nothing else from this, hold on to this lesson. Life will continue presenting you with the same disrespect until you decide you've had enough, until you carve a boundary so sharp it cannot be crossed, until you stop handing out second chances to those who would never grant you one. This is where strength is forged, not in endless explanations, not in begging to be understood, but in silence, discipline, and unshakable standards. When you refuse to let disrespect live in your presence, you transform from someone she could manipulate into someone untouchable. And here's the truth. Most men miss the world doesn't honor what you say. It honors what you tolerate. The moment you stop entertaining games, you step into a power that can't be stolen. You become the man she remembers, long after you've gone silent, the man who walked away. Not in weakness, but in mastery of himself. Keep this with you. Real strength is not loud. It's consistent. It doesn't seek validation. It creates distance where respect is absent. That is what makes you unforgettable. So, if this message hit home, drop a comment. I'm untouchable. Like this video. Subscribe for more. And share it so other men can save themselves years of wasted time.